Good evening. Patrick here. Eight questions with, and it's Wednesday. Wednesday. Middle of the week. Happy hump day to everybody. Yeah. So this is actually going to be the last show of the week. We had Deborah Sullivan on Monday, so everything got pushed up. So instead of doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday like we normally do, we did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this is the last show of the week, and we're really glad that you're here, and we're really glad that our guest Nia Kaitlyn Ketsdever will be here as well. I'm not sure if she goes by the full name, but I like it, so I said it. We'll find out when she gets here. Nia is she is a really she's a really nice lady. I really enjoy talking to her. I actually got her by putting out a what I call a cold call. Sometimes when I'm looking for a guest, what I'll do is I'll go to actors groups and I'll just sit there and I'll just sit there and say who wants to talk. Um, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes you're really surprised by how little people respond to it. Like who wants to do an interview, and a lot of people just drag their feet. And I put a link in there. And once they see that we've done like over 200 of these, then I do tend to get a little bit of more of a response. Um, because actors they have to be really careful out there because there's a lot of schemers out there. Um, uh, oh, thank you, Anthony. How are you, sir? Are you doing awesome? How many subs are you at now? I'm at 951. I'm on the last push now. I'm up to that hill. Now I'm up to the last push to get to 1,000. And then we get to do it all over again. Um, but yeah, actors have to be careful because there are a lot of scams, a lot of con men, a lot of people promise you things that never happen, and you always got to be on the guard, always on the guard. Um, so when you go up to somebody and you sit there and put in a group that hey, he wants to do an interview, a lot of the actors they'll hesitate. They're not really sure. Um, Luckily for me, and a lot of the groups that I'm in, I've already interviewed a lot of people in the group, so they're able to come over and vouch for me. So people feel comfortable enough, like, hey, he's legit. So he'll give you a good interview, and so then I get responses for that. Neil was one of the ones who responded the last time I did this. I put it out there. I said, "Who wants to talk?" And I get a few responses, but I like Nia's the most, so I went with it. And I'm glad I did. I went with my gut, and I'm glad I did because she's very charming. We got to talk a little bit yesterday doing our pre-show, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She's as far as her body of work goes, it's gonna be. I always really enjoy talking to young actors that are just getting started. I don't know what that is. I mean, I've talked to veteran actors, I've talked to award-winning actors, I've talked to directors, producers, screenwriters, what have you. But there's just something really cool about not only interviewing an actor uh, that's just starting out, but also doing their very first interview. That those two things are really fun for me. When I get there and I can sit there and I can and I say, "This is your first time doing this," and they'll sit there and say, "Yes." And then afterwards after the show is over with, we talk a little bit after the show, and I always ask, how was your experience? How did you have fun? Did the Unabomber face scare you any? But for the most part, actually all the part, they've said that they've really enjoyed the experience, which makes me feel good because that means it tells me that we're doing it right. um, and because you always want to improve. I mean, I always want to improve. Either my technique, the questions I ask, um, like, and I'm always looking to improve. This is definitely not just a sit here and just ask the same questions. Because if you guys been here as much as a lot of you have, that doesn't always happen. I don't always ask the same questions. I mean, why would you keep showing up to the show if I was asking the same old questions? The only question I ever ask is the first one is, where someone's born and raised at. Otherwise, that it's a crapshoot. It all depends where the guest takes us. Tonight, I mean, I'm not the driver. I'm not the driver. I might have provided the car, but the guest is the driver, and that's the way it should be. I want them to take us where I want them to take us where they feel comfortable going to. And so when you get a young actor, as far as starting their career out or their first interview and whatnot, you just want to let them go. You just want to just get in there and say, "Hey, take us wherever you want to go. Share with whatever you want to share." And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Um, so this week has been pretty good as far as guests goes. I mean, we had Deborah Sullivan on Monday, and of course, stupid StreamYard crushed me. Um, so it tracked the reviews on the interview to over 120, and I'm thinking, wow, I got a hit. This is going to be awesome. And the next day, I woke up and down there at 42, and I was just sick. I'm just sick with that. I just hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I think I had more than that in the room, so I don't think that number's right. Um, so I will be pushing Deborah's interview out a little bit harder than normal because that was a great interview. Me and the Bat we teamed up on that, and we had a fantastic time doing so. And then we had the lovely Sarah Dunn yesterday, and I adore Sarah. I really do. I really adore her. She's got a big heart, a really big heart, and I was really glad that I got to talk to her. It was unique. It was different from me. You read between the lines of what she's saying, and she's overcome so much, and to keep her creativity and her wits and her writing skills. I mean, she's very gifted. And so she's been doing stand-up comedy for 10 years, 10 or 11 years. That's a long time. It's a long time to being funny, and she does it really well. If you get a chance to go back to yesterday's interview with her, go to the last 20 minutes of the interview and then check out her. She did it. I asked her if she would do a 5-minute set for us. If she could do 5-minute sets. Hey, Kevin, how are you, sir? Doing well. Doing well. Glad you're here on a Wednesday. Um, if you and Anthony care to share us out, that would be awesome. Um, and yeah, and you're gonna have to come over and hang out with me in March, Kevin. I got something in my mind in March. I got something up my sleeve, but I'm gonna get a hold of you later and throw it your way. Uh, so I really enjoyed the interview yesterday. Like I said, I asked Sarah to give me a 5-minute set of her stand up, and that's a lot to ask of a stand up comedian. It's just because most of the time when they do their sets, short open mic. But she's given us one of her sets that she gets paid to do. When she gets booked into a side of a comedy club and they say, okay, go out there and you're part of the show and whatnot. And comics get paid. They get paid. Um, I don't know what. I mean, I'm thinking like band wise, it's probably the same thing like a band. They get certain tiers of money. I don't know, but all I know is that she's a professional, and I asked her to perform for free. And not only did we not get her 5 minutes, but we got 10 minutes of comedy. 10 minutes. I was blown away by her generosity. And thank you so much, Sarah. That was an amazing set. That was an amazing set. And thank you so much for gifting that with us, gifting that to us yesterday. Um, so yeah, if you guys all notice, I don't know if you can see this or not. I think maybe you can, but the cheetah and I have been tipped. We are at 9:51 now. Hey, Alex. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, Alex, did you see my interview with Kevin Van Hook? I remember asking you if you wanted to hang out with me for that interview, but I was wondering if you saw that interview afterwards. I'm gonna have to show it. I'm gonna have to throw it your way on Instagram. That was a great interview. The creator of Bloodshot, um, just a terrific interview. Um, so yeah, so I want to thank everybody that showed up for yesterday and Monday. Um, the calendar. We got to talk about the calendar. Uh, I will. I could throw it your way on your Instagram. I'm just. I love to hear your feedback on that. I definitely want to. I want to throw it your way. I want to hear your feedback. What I'm looking for is, since you're a comic book, what I call an expert that who knows a lot about the genre. I want to know if the questions that I asked were they the right questions. So I'm going to throw that your way on Instagram, and then I really appreciate your feedback on that. Because I want to get more. I want to get more comic book creators and artists and writers in here. All right, let's go to the calendar, shall we? Because the calendar is everything. So this closes the third week of January. We have one. Well, we have 2 more weeks left, or one and a half, or so to speak. So let me tell you what's going on here. So, um, so Sunday, the 22nd. So we're going to be doing something a little different here. I'm going to do something with our good friend Katie from Popping the Popcorn. Hey, Professor, how are you, sir? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Our guest, Nia Kaitlyn Ketsdever, will be here momentarily. So our calendar on Sunday has changed a little bit. So I'm going to be teaming up with Katie from Popping the Popcorn, and we're going to try to do something in similar lines as we do for the ISC show. And we're going to start a little new series called "Not a Horror Movie." And then because I got grief because certain people think I'm not a horror channel, so I thought I'd have fun with that uh, and say not a horror movie, and then we're going to talk about movies that aren't necessarily horror. In fact, they're not horror at all. Um, but we're going to do a little something different. We're going to talk about some movies that we like that the rest of the community might go like, what? But that's all right because we want to talk about them. So we're going to do not a horror movie. We're going to start that on Sunday on the 22nd at 3 o'clock here. I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. Our guest shall be here momentarily. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. A good lot of fun. And then, of course, tomorrow on Sunday night at 8 o'clock, I will be here, and I will be here solo. I'm afraid, because the Bat will not be able to make it on Sunday. I was told today that the Bat will not make it, but we will be here. We will be covering Martyrs. I'll be watching the movie. I'll be talking about it. We can talk about it, and so that'll be at 8 o'clock on the Midnight Society. Next Tuesday, we have actor stuntman Brian Dodds will be here with us. Brian is a rising actor in his own right. He has appeared on. He is a stuntman for one of the leads of the show The Rookie Feds. He's the stuntman for Kevin Zegers, one of the stars. Now, Kevin Zegers might sound familiar to those who are sharp. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Professor. I really do. And we really bust our ass. We really try to bring the fun guests here, and I think we do a really good job at that. And I'm really glad you guys are here, and I appreciate your questions, and I appreciate you guys staying for the whole show. That's what really helps. When people, I mean, I understand people have things to do or whatnot, but just listening to it like a radio show or a podcast. It's awesome. It helps the channel out, helps the guest out, everything else. I mean, it really is really cool that you guys are here. And yeah, tonight's guest will be she'll be fun to talk to. She's very energetic, and I really enjoyed talking to her yesterday during our pre-show, and she will be here momentarily. All right. So Brian Dodds will be here Tuesday, the 24th. The 25th, we'll see Jim Heffernan will be here. And he is a screenwriter, a director. I watched two of his films that he's made. The Angry World of Brian Webster, which is an excellent indie film. And my favorite film of his, Destroy All Sisters. Jim is he's a kaiju fan, and he put the title of his movie "Destroy All Sisters." That was a play of "Destroy All Monsters," was a famous 1966 kaiju film, and so he is a kaiju fan. So we're talking about indie films and also indie films and kaiju. All right, let's see. I want to make sure. I'm gonna go check, make sure she didn't ping me here. I sent her the link, but of course she is in Los Angeles. You know how traffic goes in there. So traffic sometimes can be a little havoc. So let's see. There she is. Right on time. Way to hit the mark, Nia. All right, so put your hands together and please welcome our guest tonight, Nia Kaitlyn Ketsdever.
Hi.
Okay, so the first question I have to you is, how do you say your last name?
Ketsdever or Ketsdever, either one.
Yes, I got one right. I forgot to ask that from you yesterday. Yeah, I was thinking, going like, am I, I wasn't until I was starting to talk, and I was going like, am I saying this right? Am I saying this right? So I better ask when she gets here. I don't want her to come in there and say, dude, you've been killing my name for the last 3 weeks. Stop already. Uh, all right. Are the guests is here? Everybody's clapping. Everybody's saying hello to you. Can you see the chat okay, Nia?
Yes.
Good. Because they will be asking questions later on. Once again, I'll ask the chat if you guys care to share us out. That'll be most awesome that you could do that. I appreciate that so much. And welcome to the show. How was your day today?
It was good, yeah. Just did some work and such, pre-production for some projects going on, and yeah.
Isn't it always that way though? I mean, isn't it nice to roll out of bed knowing that there's a plan? You know,
Semi-plan.
right. I mean, because during the pandemic, you're rolling out and you're going like, what am I doing? What am I gonna do today?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I actually had a kind of different pandemic experience than a lot of people because I I was always working before, and then when I lost my job a few months later, I started solo traveling. And so everyone was like at home, and I was just like solo traveling, being a little nomad for about a year, which is a lot different than a lot of other people's pandemic experiences.
it's so interesting talking to people about that because I would sit there and say, well, how did you handle the pandemic? And for the most part, there was always everybody had different answers. But the one thing that caught me more than anything else was how many people actually were working. Oh yeah, we went up there. We shot. We went up there, made a movie, and it's like, you did? Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we might have been 50 feet apart, but we were doing it. Um,
Yeah, I
there
know.
was a there was a lot of creativity. Um, I don't I just can't see someone like yourself, a creator, a creative. Um, it's got to be the hardest thing that anybody would ever ask you to do is stop being creative, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, was that where your like three biggest fears?
I
You
think
know,
it was weird too because I don't know the industry before COVID. I got into the industry in 2021. So I was like doing the self tapes and doing the Zoom plays. And I got into the industry in the midst of like when the pandemic was still happening. And so it was
so
like, it
you
was
had
my
no,
normal.
so you had no background, you had no prior history to that, so you didn't know, you weren't, everything that you were doing was all new, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even like with the many, many times that I've been on set, like the past year and a half, 2 years and such, like I've only known like, masks and COVID tests and all the social distancing. That's all I've ever known in the industry because that's when I got into it.
Well, I think I know that they're still doing. I know some sets are very much. They're very proactive for that. I know some are not.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at, I suppose. Um, but yeah, what a way to jump into showbiz, right? It's a pandemic. The world shut down. People are sick. I'm going to become an actor. I'm going to get busy. I'm going to become a star.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you know what? It's good to have goals, right, Nia?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I totally understand that. I can totally respect that. Um, so a solo is. I mean, that's basically. Did you drive around country or did you walk around country? How did you get around for that?
I did just about every single type of travel you could imagine. I took planes, I drove sometimes, I went on a train. I don't think I went on a boat anytime within the year of my nomading, but besides that, I travel in just about every way. I traveled in an RV with a friend at one point for 2 weeks. So I even did like some RV stuff. I stayed in Airbnbs or I did hostels or hotels sometimes. Like I did pretty much every type of travel and stay, and I stayed with family sometimes, like all types of stuff.
Did you ever sleep under the stars?
No, but that was like a safety thing more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I didn't want to become one of those headlines like solo travelers killed in the forest, so I avoided those at night.
I was just gonna say, my biggest thing would be to wake up and share coffee with a rattlesnake that came inside the bag.
Yeah.
That would be the big. I'd be like, yeah, I'm over this. But did you have a plan when you left, or did you just throw a dart at a map and said that's where I'll start at and just start that way?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, there were times where it was like I didn't know where I was going to stay in like 2 weeks, like it was a unique living situation. I was 19, and so I was young. I'm still young, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was younger.
22.
I'm about to be 22, yeah.
Yeah.
But
You're old now. Yeah, 19 young, 22. Uh,
yeah,
so
but it was an interesting time because sometimes I had a plan, but sometimes I didn't. I definitely did not always have a schedule per se. Sometimes I like did work trades. So one of them was I worked at a hostel in Charleston, South Carolina for 2 months, and that was one of my work trades. And I did like a work trade for a week in Seattle where I stayed with a family and just helped them out for about a week. But yeah, I didn't always know if I was going to have a place to live or not the next week.
was a work trade strictly you worked, they give you a bed, or was it they give you a bed and a little bit of money?
They usually like bed and food. Yeah.
Okay, okay. What did your parents think when you said that you were going to take off in this adventure?
Yeah, they
Did they give you like that emergency credit card and tell you to put it in your shoe, and then if you absolutely positively need the help, call us?
Um, they were surprised to say the least. It took them a while to kind of like realize the path that I was going on, but yeah, but I wouldn't trade like those travelers for anything. I mean, you learn so much traveling by yourself, and I feel like there's not many 19-year-olds out there who are just like, yeah, I just traveled alone for a year basically, and I grew so much from that, which I'm super grateful for. And I met a lot of really cool people, and I have friends all over the country and the world because of it. And I've seen like 32 out of the 50 US states so far, and I've been a lot of places, which I'm super grateful for.
I would think that would just be a tremendous experience to draw upon as far as your acting goes. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah, even like, when you get roles that are like, "Oh, this role's from the Midwest," or this one's from Virginia, this one's from South Carolina. Like it's like I've been a lot of those places, so I can literally visualize like what type of place that my characters is from.
um, What got you to do that? I mean, was it the pandemic? Have you always been curious, about traveling? I mean, what led you to decide that you were going to go walk across the country or drive around the country?
Well, I was taking a break from college because I just didn't want to do the whole Zoom online college thing. And I couldn't, I just knew I needed to get out of my hometown. I couldn't afford a lease. And I realized after doing some research that like traveling for a year was going to cost me less than a lease would. And that's what I could afford, which is kind of weird thinking about because it should probably be the opposite.
You would
But
think so.
yeah, so leases were too expensive for me at the time. And I lived in the same place my entire life, like you know, and I saw some of my friends go off to college, like even like across the country and stuff, and I was still in the same town. I just needed to like desperately get out and just explore and, have new experiences with new people and such. And so it was a really great opportunity for me to just grow as a person and see what is all out there.
What town did you grow up in?
Sacramento, California.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, um, I grew up there a little bit too. I grew up in Carmichael.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I was. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. 6724 Landis Avenue.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right next to the American River.
Yeah. I was, yeah, just a few minutes from the American River. Yeah. That's crazy.
Kevin Bacon calling again. But yeah, isn't that something? I just talked to actually we just talked to an actor from Sacramento a couple of weeks ago. Galen Howard was on the show, and he's also he grew up in Davis, but he did a lot of early work in Sacramento.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah.
Nice.
So were you going to Sacramento State at the time?
No, I kind of hopped around some community colleges. I started college when I was 16. I took a couple classes. So back then I went to Sac City. Then when I graduated high school, I went to Folsom Lake College, and then after that I went to American River.
Okay, okay. Uh, how did now did you had you thought about starting to become an actress during that time, or were you were just more into exploration? Like see what comes up.
Well, acting was kind of something that I always wanted to do ever since I was 12, and I just never really did anything about it. And then one day, my friend who I met through photography, she was a model, and I was a photographer for many years. And she mentioned, like, hey, they're doing background casting for Outer Banks, and Outer Banks is one of my favorite TV shows. And so I joined backstage just to apply to the casting. And then I was like, well, I have the subscription, I might as well start it. And so then I just got into it, and then a few months later, like in February 2021, I really just dove straight into the deep end and I started auditioning constantly. And I was actually surprised that I was getting the amount of bookings that I was like, because I was doing pretty good, getting like 15% booking rate from all the auditions that I was doing, which I was really happy about. And then like a year later started my production company and moved out to Orange County. Because I was starting to act when I was still traveling, and so I was doing a lot of online stuff because I never really had a like secure place that I was based out of.
Uh, Thank you so much, Cassie. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. Our friend Cassie from Forensic Mystics is here. Thank you for hearing us out. Yeah, she's a tremendous talented card reader. She likes cryptid, and she likes yeah. She read me and I own a cheetah for a pet, and she read our card. So me, yeah, I have he's sleeping underneath a blanket, but I have a cheetah. Uh, yeah, yeah, thank you again. Okay, so now you're acting. You said you're acting on the road. Now, what do you mean by that? Were you just as far as what, like, were you taking classes on the road? Did you every town that you go to, some of the bigger towns, like you said, you were in South Carolina for 2 months. Did you go look for a community theater to work, or to watch or to observe?
I well, I did I continued to audition for places all over the country because I was constantly traveling. So as long as like they would pay for my travel, then I'd be good. Like I didn't book it, but I auditioned for one thing one time that was gonna film like in Ohio for a couple weeks. I was really close though. I got a call back, and I know how many people were on the callback, so I was so close. Didn't book it, but it's always just good to even get the call back in general.
It is,
And
I think, you're right, because, we do hear about that a lot, where people will go out for parts and then they don't hear anything,
yeah,
like, so you're sitting there, you're wondering, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? And because sometimes the process can be a little longer,
oh yeah,
it's like, okay, and so it isn't always just like, okay, you didn't get it or you did get it. Sometimes it'll be 3 or 4 weeks or whatever, but sometimes they don't ever call you back. You're
yeah,
sitting there going like, did I get it? Did I get it? And then you don't, and then you sit there and wait, and then you call up and you go like, oh no, we casted that like 3 weeks ago.
yeah,
And that's just like, to me, I just find that I hate that. I hate that for any actor. I don't think that's right. I think it's like, once you make your commitment to whoever you're going to cast, you need to, everybody that you saw, you need to at least let them know. Send them an email or something saying it didn't work out this time, but we'll see you for the next one.
yeah.
Along that.
Honestly, like I do so many auditions and I'd rather not hear from them because it's even worse when you get the email that says that you didn't get it. Like then it's like you open it and you think that it's something good and then it's not. And you just heartbreak instead of
Oh,
like, I'd
right,
rather hear the
right.
silence.
Uh, well, we got our first question for Nia, our professor, as asking question: traveling alone, was there ever a moment, weather area, where where you went, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going on till I get to a bigger town or a safer town?
Yes. There uh
So
yeah,
sleeping under
for
an underpass is not a good idea.
sure. Sorry, what was that?
Sleeping underneath the underpass is not a good idea.
No, do not
Oh,
recommend. But yeah, there were 2 towns actually, like, in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was only staying there for a couple days, thankfully, but, like, there was this, like, homeless man that was being really aggressive towards me, so I had to, like, hide in this gas station and, like, call the police. It was not a fun time. And then, like, so that would have been in October, November of 2020. So that was not a fun experience. But then after that, like months later, in it would have been in July, my friend and I were in Chicago, and it was like the worst time that we could have been in Chicago because we were on the road with this bug and in a little RV is like attached to this bug, and there's like a tornado warning, and this is like the worst weather we've ever seen in our lives, and like you can barely see in front of you with how heavy the rain was pouring, and we didn't have shelter. We just had this RV, and so we're like, where do we go? So we just called the police because we had no idea or who to call or anything. We were like, we are on the road and we can't see and we don't know where to go to find shelter. And then they told us to just go and hide out at the police station. So we're like, okay. So we go over to the police station and we walk outside and there was so much rain, so much wind. It was like hard to walk just to get to the front door. And at this point, we go inside and we're just laughing because the whole front of the police station are windows. So it's like we are hiding in this police station with a wall of windows in front of us. I'm like, this is. and then, and so we're just hiding there. And then at one point, like a police and like someone who just got released came out and they scared us and we screamed. And the police are like, are you okay? And we're like, we don't know where to go. And it was not the best time, but we got a laugh out of it because we got sent to the shelter with just a wall of glass windows naturally to hide from a tornado. So,
yeah, I've lived in Michigan now for over 20 years, and once in a great blue moon, we'll get that tornado warning or whatnot. Nothing since, I've had a tornado hit into our town. We had an F0, and I mean, it was a little surprising because it's like, okay, what's an F0? and it came through about maybe like a mile and a half away from our house on and we didn't even know about it. We didn't hear any warnings or nothing, and not until the next day. So this little F-Zero came down there, and it did more damage than I thought it. Because the way they're talking about it was like F-Zero's the weakest thing that you could hit. Like, was that like a dust devil? But we drove over there, and yeah, F-Zero can actually it could actually do some damage, and more than people suspect. So um, that's the closest thing, and it happened at night. To
Oh,
me, I'd rather see a tornado during the day. Let me
yeah,
see it during the day, so if I can see it, I can escape it. It's the
yeah,
ones that come at night that's the ones that freak me out.
yeah.
Um,
No, and they're scary looking. Like we saw one when we were driving in like Nebraska or something, and it was far off in the distance. But we saw, and we are like, "Is that?" And it looks horrific. Like it looks so just like terrifying. Like it's like it just you can't even just like describe it from what you see like in person versus when you see a picture. Like in person, it's just so scary to look at.
Now, during your year on the road and whatnot, I mean, did you meet any actors? Did you meet anybody when you're on your travels? I mean, you were saying you're auditioning or whatnot. Did you meet anybody, um, like in person when you're out there?
Um, I ran into like a screenwriter in Tennessee one time. Like I didn't know him beforehand, but we were just talking and he ended up being a screenwriter. So there was that occurrence. But I mean, I think I'm working at the hostel. I met a lot of different people, and so I probably met an actor here and there or whatnot. But most of my friends weren't in the acting industry or anything like that. Most of them that I met, I then like met up with once I moved to Orange County and LA area and such.
When did you decide that you had enough and you're ready to end your trek?
Well, it was basically I was just going to be traveling for the year before I went back to school. So I was just taking a year off school. And so then I started traveling in October of 2020, and I stopped traveling September 2021. My last stop was Denver, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And I actually met like my roommate, my current roommate. I met her at that place because she was a nomad too, and she was living at the hostel, and that's how I met her. And now we're both in LA. But
Is
yeah,
she in
so
is she in the industry too?
yeah, she's a screenwriter
Oh,
and a
how nice is
photographer.
that? Well, good. That's all right. So you guys both landed on your feet together in Orange County. That's not that far away from everything. Um, and so what month did you land in Orange County? Was that in October of 2021?
Yeah, I moved at the end of August. Then I was like, I need to take a trip again. So then I took my last trip to Denver, and then I went back and I stayed in Orange County for a year.
Oh,
I
okay.
moved, and then a couple weeks later, I was like, I need to go. And so I just booked a flight.
Now you are still in Orange County today, though.
No, I just moved to LA.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. So you moved down. Okay, you went down closer to Hollywood then.
yeah, yeah. So I'm near that area. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. How was the call? I mean, what was it like? I mean, is that the first time when you moved to LA? Was that the first time you actually landed there? And if so, what was your first thoughts about it?
Well, it was weird living in Orange County because I was in LA so much that I could basically live there. I just like resided in Orange County, but I was traveling to LA so much for different acting gigs or different film gigs, etc. And so at that point I was just like I just need to move, but I remember one of my first times on set was actually my first time on set was for the movie just came out, but it was Paramount's Babylon. I was an extra for that. That was my first time on set.
Oh, Babylon.
And
Okay.
yeah, I had a really early call time in the morning. I showed up to set. I was so hyped to get free food.
Sure.
I
Oh,
was like,
oh,
yes.
and that crafty was is that's top notch right there.
Oh yeah, no, the Paramount's crafty, amazing. I was like, I showed up way earlier than I was supposed to because I didn't want to like hit LA traffic. So I showed up
Right.
early. They were like, "Oh, you can just go get breakfast over there and then check in later." And I was like, "Okay." And I was so happy and content just to be on set. And I even like, I met a friend on set that day. She was an extra and she sat next to me. And I'm still friends with her. She was like one of my first friends when I moved to like that area. And I just remember I was in the theater scenes and I just remember like the magic of it all. They had this really cool camera that was just like, and the
Like
description is
they're shooting overheads, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just this super cool camera that I've like never seen in person, and they were playing like old scenes from old movies, and it was just it was a period piece too. You know, they had us on days for to be in the 20s scenes, and then they had us days for the 50s scenes, and I had a costume for that one
Oh,
and
nice.
a different one. And yeah, it was just a really cool experience. Like I remember just feeling the magic of my first day on set. It was really fun.
That's a good movie to get your feet wet. That was your first set experience.
Yeah.
Did they tell you oh wait a minute. Let me okay, we got another question. We got two. I can think I can help you with the first one. Is that close to Rancho Cucamonga? It's about 45, 50 miles west of Rancho Cucamonga. I only say that because I lived in Ontario, so I know that one too. I went to school Altaloma, and that's in Rancho Cucamonga. So I went to college, Chaffey College in Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh,
Uh, Question: what would you be your dream type of role? Yeah, okay, we can get to that now. We'll touch bases on it again. So for this now you saw Babylon, you saw how it was produced and whatnot. Were you does that did they give you any did that give you any inspiration to what would be your dream role to play?
um,
Would you like to do something like a Babylon, or would you rather do something a little bit more modern?
you know, I didn't see much on Babylon to be honest because it was just like you can see the scene in the movie, but it's just a scene where like the actor's name is Diego. I forgot what the character's name is. But he just like stands up and like looks at the screen with this really, you know, intense like moment. So I didn't see much on that set, but I think overall uh, I think it's really fun just to play really just crazy roles. Like, you know, Margot Robbie's role in that, because I did see Babylon like a few weeks ago, and I think Margot Robbie's role in that was amazing. Like, it was just unhinged, and, you know, it's really cool to see something like that on screen, or also just really like, I love playing really funny comedic characters where you can just kind of be super goofy and just silly and just like it's just accepted. Like it's like that's just them being them, you know, and those are really fun. You know, people are always like, "Oh yeah, leads and dramas and stuff," which are great and amazing. But I think it's really cool to like play in dramedies or be like those comedic characters that are really just to like make somebody laugh, but they're doing their purpose, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Let's see. See the professor. I think yes, I agree. The professor says it's so cool to see her excitement and happiness to be a part of the movie world. You know, that's funny because right before he came on, I was talking about that. I was saying how, for me, what's really fun is to always catch someone like yourself who's just starting out, either starting out in your career or like is this your first formal interview with anybody?
I'd say probably, yeah. I did like I was interviewed sometimes on this podcast that I did. I was a co-host of, but yeah.
So that's the thing too, is you get to get their first interview, you talk about your first experiences. I think it's a lot of fun because because you can get the excitement and you can see the joy and the wonderment. It's not like I'm not saying that anybody has, but I can understand that they did. But sometimes you'll get somebody come in and and they've been around for a long time, and maybe they haven't gone where they wanted to, or maybe they've been there too long where they wanted to, or whatever, and they just are
Yeah.
tired. you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they're going through they're doing it by the numbers. There's
Yeah.
no joy, necessarily joy, there's no wonderment. It's just a job,
Yeah.
for sometimes. And
Yeah.
and so it's good to see someone like yourself who's just full of vim and vinegar and ready to go.
Yeah, and
Um,
I like even I've only been in the industry for 2 years, but like I can still understand that because for me I'm always like I'm a fast mover, I'm very proactive. Like I've even in like the past year I produced like 8 projects. Like I am pretty much constantly working and on top of I had other jobs on top of the 8 projects too. Like I'm pretty much constantly on different gigs and acting or producing or a million different other jobs. My friends kind of tease me about it because I just kind of do it all. But it's I could definitely understand that though, how uh it's like you can get all this stuff done, but you're like, but where am I going and how can I improve more in this area or how can I get to where I want to go and all of that. And I'm really grateful for where I am because I've heard of what it's like for other people their first couple years and I feel like I've gotten a lot done, which I'm really grateful for all those opportunities and all the people that I've gotten to work with so far who are just amazing and are bring light to my day whenever I get on set with them. Like my friends like Grace Mullen, who I met through like casting her on Backstage, and even like Aviana Harris and like this DP that I know named Lamb, and they're all like a part of like the little Ketsdever Studios gang. Like all those people are just like I didn't know almost any of them a year ago, and I think like I'm really appreciative of all those friendships and all the people that are like on my roster and list because I have like 50 plus people in my little brain of and on paper too for that I can keep track of everyone, but
sure.
for all the positions that I would ever need when it comes to producing. And I've met some really, really great and talented people that I know are going to be successful because I can just feel it within them. And it's really great to just be a part of it. And they're also uplifting and it's fun.
Yeah, you gotta have that positive energy. I mean, you definitely too, and to gather a crew around like that. Yes, I said that word. I should probably have to drink something for saying that because that's the one word. It's the one word I just like try not to use, but in this case, we'll use it. Um, Lord Gary Dando is here with us. Hello, Gary. Thank you for coming on in. Um, so yeah, it's good to have a working a working group like that. And there's a lot of directors and what have you, producers that they do that. They have that Rolodex. Well, they have their crew. They have the people that they can depend on. And so yeah, so you're getting on that early. Um,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what did you
Even, oh,
when did you decide to do that? Did someone tell you that would be the best thing to do is to, gather a group of your peers together, or did you come up by yourself?
there, well, I didn't know anyone getting into the industry. I had no connections, no friends, nobody I knew got into it. So I came in knowing nothing. But I've learned an incredible amount. But then I forgot the actor's name, but she plays Pam on The Office. She came out with a book, and I read that book, and she was talking about how important it is as actors to just start producing your own projects because when you begin, you're not always going to get those roles that you want because you're auditioning for the co-stars and the guest stars and those one-liners and those day player roles. Like you're not going to get all that you want at the very beginning because you don't
Okay.
know a lot of people and you're still establishing relationships. And so that, and then also one of my friends, Chris, who I met through this like networking company that hosts a lot of events called Entourage, and he was talking about like starting his own projects too. So then I kind of just like fell into producing and just started and was just like, I need something to do when I get to Orange County. Here's you know something that I know that I can work on right when I get there. And it took me a while, like it was hard. It took me a while to get like really supportive and really cool people on board with the projects that I did because when you don't know anyone and you have like so minimal money, and yes, Jenna
Yeah.
Fisher, that's her. But when you have like little money and little resources, it's going to be way harder for you to produce stuff. And so it wasn't easy at all, but it was just 100% worth it. And I'm so grateful
Now,
for all the friends.
as far so what? How do you define producing? Tell us what you do as a producer.
I basically get all the resources together for everything we need before we get on set. So I'm going to be the one getting the crew, getting the contracts for the crew. I usually cast my projects too, just because I love casting too. And so that's another thing that I do. I'm usually like the casting director and the producer whenever I produce things. And so getting the cast together, doing their contracts, and then making sure like camera department has all the stuff they need, getting the location together, and making sure that the location owner and I have our contracts and make sure that everything's good with that. Props, making sure like prop departments has everything they need, just basically checking in with every department to make sure that they have all the resources they need to succeed for when we get to set, including costumes and everything like that. So I have a big job. I have a lot of little pieces.
Do you like producing more than you like acting?
No. Acting's always going to be number one. Always.
Yeah, Jenna Fisher, yep. Formerly married to James Gunn. See, Alex says, yeah, casting seems like it would be fascinating. Yeah, I gotta tell you, if any job in show business, that's the job that I would want. I would want to be because I feel like I feel like that would be right in my wheelhouse. As far as that goes, I think everybody says that. I just that's the one job that fascinates me the most too. Hey, Echo.
Yeah. Oh,
no, our friend Echo's here, and I wanted to say hello to him. Glad he's here. Yeah. So no one gave you at all. I mean, you never went underneath anybody's wing as far as seeing what a producer does. You just, they came to you and said, "Listen, we need 4 actors. We need an interior, exterior, and I need during this, during 3 to 5 p.m. and yeah, what can you do for us?" And you just get out there and make it happen.
That's really, I literally a year ago I was producing like my first project and I had no idea what I was doing. And now I've worked on like 8+ projects and I have learned from a lot of other people too. And even it's funny too, because when I was learning more, because I was taking a film class during that time, I was like, wait, I'm doing some first AD tasks. So I was doing producer work, but I was also doing some of like the first AD's pre-production that I didn't know was a part of their pre-production because I hadn't learned yet. And now it's like I have a really solid foundation of what producing entails. And I have some people like they're like KCN Summers, who I've worked with quite a bit, who was a producer for the podcast that I was co-host for. And her and I have become really good friends. Or like Clifford Jones, who has worked with like Warner Brothers and Disney and I think Nickelodeon too. And he's been a DP for them. And I learned an incredible amount from him. He has like 20+ years of experience in the business, and literally like without Casey and without Clifford, like my first project wouldn't have even been able to get to that first day on set. They were incredibly helpful in all that they were doing and incredibly patient. And I was surprised that nothing really went wrong on our first day because I was still learning. Right. But no, like those are definitely people that took me like under their wing when I got to, producing my first project, and I learned a lot from them. And I'm super grateful for all the, advice that they've given me or just resources. Like, and, at this, even like, I was just surprised that Clifford even wanted to DP for our project. Cause here I am, like a little nobody who has like no experience. And he was like totally like 100% into wanting to work with us, which was really cool. He just loves working with people and teaching people. And that's like amazing. He was amazing to work with. And I'm definitely going to work with him on other projects too down the road. But yeah, there were definitely a couple people for sure that really helped me learn. Even like my professor's John Hall, he worked on Titanic back in the day. But yeah, even working with him, like he was a big support system. And so at first I didn't really have anyone, but then like a year plus into the industry, like I got a couple people who were really helpful and in different aspects, and I will always like be super appreciative of all the all the help and hard work that they put into the stuff that I was producing. And
That's since it's something I wanted to talk to you about too, because I mentioned that in our pre-show as well. Um, how do you see a lot of people? Do you see or experience or know or have heard stories about the various different scam artists that are there's a lot of people that make a lot of promises and say a lot of things that never deliver. Have you seen a lot of that? Have you experienced anything like that so far?
there were a couple people, I'm not gonna name names, but I got out of it quickly, because I just kind of picked up on it. I was like, this isn't legit. Um, but I think overall, you just kind of got to trust your gut and also know, especially for new actors, like you never pay for agencies. I was never a person who did that, but like you should never pay agents or managers or agencies. That's a big red flag if
Yeah.
you have to pay. Um, or even like there's like a scam going around that I've heard of where people are like sending you cashier checks
Huh?
and trying to get you to like buy equipment for them as a pre, and then you keep this amount of money, and that's a scam that I've heard of going around. And there's definitely, especially when you like apply to stuff for like Facebook groups when you don't really know a lot. But
Mhm.
I think overall it's just like best to just kind of be cautious and just like do your research and see who is behind the projects, and just explore and see like what's going on and all that.
Uh, yeah, I was gonna say that'd probably be the first lesson to learn, to learn with, being young in the business, especially if, really vibrant and really a go-getter. You could run across people who will try to take advantage of an artist that way. So yeah, it sucks that it happens, but it's also good to know that you're aware of that. The first now, are you surprised? Now, have these 8 projects that you completed? Now, are these all your projects or all projects that you worked on and contributed on? And how
So,
many? How many? How many? I mean, I know you can't get into detail into some, but how many have been completed so far?
so I'm gonna try to count. But so there was the Passion Project Volume One that was with my company, and that's an episodic series. Volume One wrapped, and we've been in post for a while, so we're probably gonna be done with post in a few months. And then there was a short film that I produced called You're the Real Gem that is going to get redone eventually because I didn't like how the first one came out.
Okay.
So that was another one of my projects. I worked on Solo My Guitar. That was a short film. I worked on The Influencer, which was another short film. Those weren't mine. The Influencer got accepted into Newport Beach Film Festival, which was cool. I went to my first premiere, and someone like at the premiere recognized me, which I never experienced, which was kind of fun. I was like, oh yeah, because they recognized me from Ketsdever Studios and such. So that's 4. And then let's see. I worked on like these like small little apps or platforms that were on like Roku and Amazon. I'm pretty sure they aren't a thing anymore. I think they sold the company, but I haven't worked for them in forever. So that was the other projects, and there were 2 of those. What
Are you
else?
surprised to find out how many projects actually get going, but then they don't ever go anywhere? Were you surprised to find that out? Didn't you think that everything that once it got greenlit, it was a go, and then or how long it takes for post to actually work? I mean, a
Yeah.
short film, the turnaround for a short film should be a matter of weeks, not months. But that's not always how it works, is it?
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I've definitely learned that when you even get to wrapping a project, that's incredibly rare. So I've been incredibly fortunate to have, well, I had projects that fell through, um, like, but it didn't really go, it was just in the early stages of pre-production though. So it wasn't like anything big yet. And it wasn't like really set in stone. But I think for the first project that I like officially produced, I think I'm very fortunate to have even wrapped that and to get to the point where we are. And I think it's a project that I can't say much about yet, but the trailer is coming out in a couple of months. and it's called The Passion Project, Volume 1. And there's going to be 3 volumes. It's episodic.
Sure.
But I think I was very fortunate to wrap that in general because I realized that a lot of people, their first films, you know, had to be postponed, which I had to postpone mine at certain points. You know, it took like, I think like 6+ months from, let's see, March, we started the project in March, we wrapped in September, and there were breaks in between of filming. So, you know, we definitely went through our hardships, but we finished
that's independent filmmaking. That's independent filmmaking.
Oh yeah. No,
Oh
and
yeah. Welcome to the world.
Yeah, but I've been incredibly grateful to be most of the projects that I've been a part of or have produced have started, finished, and are in post or have already been released, which is really cool because that doesn't always happen in the film industry, you know, like
Oh no, a lot of them just die.
Yeah.
A lot. I think it's smart too, though, and I'm really charmed with, and I'm sure that my chat was too, because they know how much I love short film. I love the medium. I love the genre. I'm a big short film guy, but I'm really excited to see how you've embraced that, because a lot of directors and producers and whatnot, they look sort of down on short films. You know, they like, okay, a short film, I don't want to do short, I want to do a feature. And yet the short film format is so critical to learning. I mean, you learn so much more doing a short film because it's actually more intense in a sense than a feature film, because you don't have that much budget and you don't have that much time. So you learn how to move quick. You know how to break down, set up, hit your marks, and everything else. I mean, you really learn that quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of short films. My first project was it was a feature length, but it's episodic, but it's like 50 minutes, so it's basically the amount of time, a little bit less, but according to IMDb, like 15 minutes is like the minimum for a feature. And so that was usually people start out with shorts, but I really just dove right into the deep end there with the 50 minutes runtime, which is crazy. But short films, for sure, you learn a lot. I've worked on a lot of short films, I think like 5 or more, and I have a couple more that I'll be producing in a couple months from now. But yeah, short films, like it's definitely, I think you definitely learn a lot from them too, because you're going to be doing different things and different storylines with each one, and each one's going to be very different. Like I've done a psychological thriller one, I've done a that I acted in too, and I've done like a Western short film that I produced with someone, and it was through their production company, and the influencer was through another production company as well, Hartle Media, and they're producing their first feature that I'm cast in, and so I'm on set for that in a few weeks. But
how do you I got one. Okay, before I ask you my question, I'm going to ask you Alex's question. Alex Big Blue asked a question: do you have a favorite genre of movie that you'd like to watch most? Yeah, what's your favorite genre movie you do like to watch most?
I think
not act in, but watch.
I think I like dramedies. Like I like, because I feel like dramedies are more realistic. You know, there's like the funny moments, and the dramatic moments, and there's like a good balance of laughing and crying or laughing and anger. You know, it's like, it's definitely cool to see that. And
right. What's your favorite dramedy?
Let's see.
Uh-huh.
I feel like now all of my favorites that I'm thinking of aren't dramedies, but some of my favorites though I'll mention because they all have like comedic aspects to it, but they're different genres. So like Outer Banks, I kind of consider it as a dramedy, but it's like adventure and comedy kind of. But there's definitely a lot of dramatic aspects to it. Stranger Things, that's definitely a thriller, but there's definitely a lot of comedic aspects to certain parts too.
Okay.
Along with drama, naturally. Let's see. Gilmore Girls is kind of a dramedy too. Like with, they definitely like kind of balance the drama and comedy of it.
Yeah, they're both Lauren Graham and Alexis Bledel are really good at that. Yep.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love them.
Uh, yeah, anything just about everything that Robert Williams done is a dramedy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
do you see yourself more as you said earlier about a comedy, but I mean, is that how you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a comedian first, or if someone says, "Well, what's your strongest genre?" I mean, what would you feel like you're the strongest in? Not the one that you want, but the one that you're best. What would it be? Comedy? Would you pick comedy, or would you pick drama?
um that's a hard question and a hard decision. But I think it's funny because there's been people that I've met like in the industry who've like asked me if I'm a comedian or asked me if I'm like into comedy or anything like that. And I've thought of doing stand up eventually maybe, but I I don't know. I'm probably like I have more experience in drama than comedy,
Yeah,
but I definitely feel like I have I've gotten some really good, like, quick-witted comedic roles, kind of like what you see on Gilmore Girls with those very, like, quick-witted humor type of things, and I can definitely keep up with that type of pacing and that type of quick-witted humor, and I love doing roles like that, and it's actually harder to find than one would think to for someone that has that pacing. I know because I've cast roles that needed that type of comedic pacing that not everybody has.
right.
And
How do you know when somebody does have it? I mean, if to me, it's like if you don't have that much experience, how do you cast somebody how do you know that if the person you cast has enough experience to carry the role the way you see fit? Is that when do you rely on your instinct, or do you partner with a peer and find like a director or an AD or another casting director and talk to them about it?
yeah, I think the interesting part of casting and the way that I approach it is that it has to be believable. Like I can't see that they're acting. And you know how I know if they're good at quick-witted comedic timing is like I see how their banter is, like their banter within the character and how it fits and it makes me laugh, or but overall like I just can feel it when they're believable instead of me noticing this person is acting. Because if there's a person like just kind of staring at one place in the room the entire time they're doing the audition, and they just kind of have a very like theatrical voice that's good for theater, sure, but it's not believable like for film where everything's tiny and everything's subtle and more realistic. I mean, there's definitely roles out there in film that are not realistic for sure, but just
Right.
in casting for film, whenever I'm casting, I always look for those little subtleties that they're doing and those choices where I'm not thinking about how this person is acting, like I'm in their world that they've brought through the character.
Have you because because you're so young, has that ever come up? Has somebody has a veteran actor come up to you? And because to me, I'll be honest, I mean, if I walked up and I had a few credits underneath my belt and I walked up and you're there and you're casting me, I'm gonna be looking at you a little bit side eye, because it's like, how much experience do you have? I mean, how do you know, other than your gut feeling? I mean, how do you know that if you're casting the right person or the wrong person? I mean, it's got to be asked. So I'm asking you. So, how do you handle the only been in the business for a little under 2 years? So, where do you get your confidence at? What do you do between casting? Do you go to other casting directors? Do you sit down and talk to them? I mean, have you ever sat in or shadowed an experienced casting director or experienced producer or director? Have you gotten that chance to do that yet, or is everything
I
just been on your own?
I've I've definitely gotten I think the most interesting casting perspectives is from other actors because they kind of know what it's like to be in that mindset. But I've definitely listened to, a lot of just thoughts from casting directors. I follow all the casting directors I follow on Instagram. I have their notifications on, and I just listen to what they say, and I read their feedback. And I really pay attention to, because each casting director definitely has a different
Yes.
type of way that they're doing this. And I mean, I did acting back in high school too. I was in theater for a couple of years, and so I got experience in that. And I cast my own project, my own play back then, which was years years ago. But I think I was actually surprised I never really got an experience like that. I feel like a lot of the experiences that I've had, I feel like I've gotten in my own head about in that sort of retrospect, like thinking like, oh, I don't have as many years of experience as this person, and so they're going to think this way, like assuming things that nobody's actually saying to me. and
Hmm.
and I try to keep the mindset of, like, if nobody is saying it to me directly, then it's could all be in your head. Like, it's like if someone isn't directly saying that they don't believe in you, then it could literally have nothing to do with you personally, their actions.
No, I agree.
And I think like that's a good mindset to keep. And even like, and then even learning, like, when I had that little like mindset and thoughts, bad thoughts about myself when I was starting, like I say starting out, but I have confidence in what I'm doing now because I've worked on a lot of different projects. And I've even like, what I realized too is talking to other actors and other filmmakers is I've gotten a lot done in the short amount of time that I've been in this industry, like a lot more than, like, a lot of people maybe do one or two films a year when they're starting out, which I didn't realize until I started like doing research and asking, talking to different people and their experiences. And sometimes people don't get cast for years, and it's like I may not have been in this industry long, but I have a lot of experience and a lot of credits to kind of back me up to be like, hey, I know what I'm doing, even though I'm young and I'm still learning. I've been able to work with a lot of different people on a lot of different projects
Do
and
you,
have
do you,
seen how a lot of different people work. And I
do you
learn really fast.
do you like working without a net? I mean, do you like working that, or would by yourself without a net, or do you like a safety net per se, or do you like to have a team around you? I mean, like if you have any questions or whatnot, do you go to them and talk to them and ask them, what would you do, or how would you do this, or do you just believe in your instinct and go with it?
I think a combination of both. I think I know that I can always solve any problem that I'm given. And I learned that through solo travel, and I learned that through producing my own projects. I know that I can always solve anything that goes wrong. But I'm also totally willing to ask others for help and to learn from them, or to get advice from other people who have more experience than I do. And there's no shame in asking for help,
No, not
or
at
there's
all.
no shame in learning from other people who know more than you, because no matter if you've been in this industry for 20 years or 5 or 2 or 1, there's always going to be someone who knows more than you, which is perfectly okay and perfectly valid to want to learn from them and grow from that.
I have a saying. People say, was that a bad question? I'll say there's no such thing as a bad question. It's the only bad thing is the question unasked.
Yeah.
So unless you ask it, you'll never know. So if you don't ask it, it's a bad thing. Um, well, don't be
Yeah.
afraid to. Don't, because or the worst thing is the worst thing you'll hear is you hear someone say no. That's if you ask somebody to help, or they know anything, or whatever the question may be, the worst thing that can happen is just that they're say no, and then you just get up there and go find someone who does know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that is a lot of projects. I mean, I saw your database page, and you have a lot there, and it is it's getting it made, getting it out. Now, where are you getting your short films seen at? Are they being seen? Are you have you rented out any place? Have you done it like like a short, like your own little. Because I can see you doing this. That's the thing, Nia. I can see this happening. I can see you renting out a theater and running your short films as a festival. Is that something that's crossed your mind? There's, sort of like a showcase of what you've done or what your team has done.
Yeah, I actually have. I've I've had a couple different ideas when it comes to that too, because I know like I could totally book a theater, but I've also like had a premiere for two short films that I was a part of at two different film festivals, which is another lucky thing. Like the first year, having two films in film festivals are amazing. Well, which I'm incredibly thankful for too, because I again learned that film festivals sometimes you don't get into any of them, and so I'm just grateful for getting into the door at all with those two. One
Or
of
I
them
should,
I
or
just
you should say you don't get into them unless. Because have you run across that yet?
oh well, you have to pay the fee, but
Buy an ad in the magazine that gets you in there. Um, yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical about some festivals. Some festivals I've seen how they work, and a lot of them are basically either they are if you pay for an ad in the back of the magazine, your chances of getting nominated are better or whatnot. There's a lot of legit ones out there too. And we've talked to a couple of festivals directors, um, but it is a little dicey sometimes. You want to make sure you want to make sure your project is being seen by the best people possible in the best way possible. Um,
yeah.
and I think sometimes festivals are just like anything else. They see really hungry artists and they throw them a few crumbs, and the artists jump on it. And it isn't always the best experience. Um, but how did you like your first your first premiere? I mean, your two premieres. Did you get to walk a red carpet and people? I saw the picture for the I used of you for this show. Where was that? Where was that taken? Was one of your premieres? I take it.
Yeah, yeah, that was at Newport Beach Film Fest, and even like what you were saying before, like just like anything in the industry, you got to kind of be careful. The
Hmm.
two film festivals that I have been a part of are Newport Beach Film Festival and Culver City Film Festival. That one wasn't one of my films. It was just like I helped a friend with some like post production producing things, and so he invited me to his premiere. But my first film festival was in Newport at a theater, and it was really fun. Like there was a red carpet and the little sign, and I got all dressed up, and so did like the crew
Uh-huh.
that was a part of it and stuff.
You look
And
very nice in your picture.
thank you. Yeah, I love that dress. I got it at a thrift store. I'm a big thrifter. Like I don't usually buy just because I'm like pretty eco-friendly with all the stuff that I do, so I don't usually buy anything new just because there's something out there that's like gently used that I can use and it's just as good.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it was really fun. I remember showing up and I was so excited, and then like seeing our project on the big screen, which was really cool. And then afterwards, like taking more pictures and like the photographer asking to take my picture. And even like that was the instance where someone came up to me and they were like, "You're part of Ketsdever Studios, right?" Which no one has ever come up to me and asked me like or recognized me from somewhere, like that was like a weird experience, like the first experience someone coming up to you and recognizing you is kind of I don't even know the word, just
It's different. It's
yeah.
different, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's cool. Like it's like you feel recognized. It's like that's a really
Did you
cool
do it? Did you
aspect.
do it? Did you do a double take? I mean, when someone said that, hey,
Yes.
aren't you? Yes, yeah, I did too. I
Good.
did too. Yeah, first time it
I
happened to me.
definitely
First time
did.
it
No,
happened to
I
me.
was like,
Yeah, I was at a shopping mall. Next thing I know, I hear her say, "Hey, aren't you that guy from Marsugi's? I know you." And I was like, "Huh?" I worked in live music, and it was like, I said, "Yeah, you're the guy that books the place." And I'm like, "Who?" I don't know who this person is. It's so unique. It's so different, and you get like you do double take on it. It's
yeah.
exciting though. How are your parents and your family thinking about your success so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm the only one in my family in the industry, so certain aspects of it they don't really understand or get yet. But they're supportive in it. Like there's still the teasing around the family of like, oh, an actress, but at least she does have a waitress job or stuff like that, But um, they're they're like supportive, and yeah, they're still kind of learning about what it means for me to be in the industry because they haven't been in it, and so they don't. It's like when you're in the industry, there's a lot of things that are big deals that other people don't really get. Like it's like even in the acting perspective, it's like auditioning for a new casting director or getting an audition or getting a callback or auditioning for the same casting director over and over again or
Right.
getting a meeting with a manager or other stuff like that is means the world to actors. And producing, it's like people sometimes only produce one or two projects like a year, and realizing like how big a deal it is that you were a part of a project that hit pre and then post, and I mean pre pre-production, production, and post-production.
That's
There
right.
is like finish the whole thing. Like it's like even that's a big deal in the industry, and realizing or getting into a film festival because in the industry really all the odds are against you. It's incredibly competitive and there's a million different things that go on.
Yeah.
And
Let
for
me,
you to
let me
succeed
ask you a
in
question.
any yeah. Oh,
Let me ask you a question as an actor. Then I'll call it my Zach Braff question. But here's the question for you. So let's just say that you're. I know that everybody does self tapes, but they used to do in person auditions. So let's just say that you're going out for a role, and there's like 20 people there with you, 20 other actresses, and they're all going for the same role, and one actress comes up to you and says, will you read with me, or can you help me understand the character a little bit better? I'm not really getting a grip on it. Would you help them? Would you read with them or help them maybe identify the character they're playing, or would you not, and why?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd help them. I think because I've kind of like coached my friends a little bit in like acting classes and stuff, and it's just like the same thing. I mean, if you look at auditions as another form of an acting class, you get to learn way more than of like, oh, another audition. It's like it's amazing that you got an audition. Let's learn from this. And so I think like I'd ask them because instead of me taking my portrayal and giving it to them, I think it's important for them to connect with the character in their own way. So I would ask them certain questions like, what do you think this character's thinking? Or what are they saying versus what are they thinking in this moment? Because those are definitely can be two different things. Or
I mean, now remember, when you're telling this person this, they're going out for the same job you're going out for. So how much of a coach would you be for that person? I mean, would do you want to coach them into maybe acing you out, or do you want to just give them enough rope to, like, okay, here's a, learn by doing, you know?
yeah,
So how would you do that? I mean, would you go in full bore and say, hey, okay, let's do this? Or would you sit there and say, I can do a couple of lines with you, you know, and then but after that, because you're supposed to be an actress, you're an artist too. You're supposed to sort of have a grip on this a little bit. um you know do you find yourself, I mean, I think this is one thing that self-taping has eliminated. I think it has eliminated the sense of competition. I don't
yeah,
think that.
you don't get to see your competition.
No, no, you don't get to see it anymore. I'm not
Yeah,
necessarily. I don't think that's not necessarily a good thing. I think competition sometimes makes the cream rise to the top. I
yeah,
mean, do you like? I mean, because you're a casting director. I mean, you tell me. I mean, do you feel like it's better when you see someone in person, and there's, like, there's 4 or 5 people, and you can see them all, how they react to, because they're reacting. You can sit there in the hallway and watch people go in and out, and by their facial reactions, it sort of can give you an idea how you're going to do and how you're going to approach your audition, right? But you can't do that when you're self-taping. So how do you retain a competitive edge, and assertiveness for your auditioning process? I
I think
mean,
yeah.
go ahead.
I think my mindset when it comes to auditioning and everything is like no matter what, you go in there and you do it the way that you feel genuine to the character that you developed. And if it's meant to be, it'll happen. But if it doesn't, that doesn't mean that the casting director won't see you for other roles. And there could also be a million different things that come into a casting decision. Even like I got cast with another person, and the other person was 6 foot and I'm 5'3". So there are even parts of my scene where I had to like stand on apple boxes because I was too short for certain shots, you know? So like it could literally just be, oh, this person's 5'5" and this person's 5'3". Well, this person, the 5'5" person, is gonna look better with the actor because otherwise then we're gonna have to do different height things. You know, it's like there's a million different casting, especially with higher budget stuff. Like there's a million different things that go into casting an actor, and they also have to get a million different perspectives, like and yeses and nos from the producers and the director and the executives and the other casting people. And like it's like so many people
Yeah.
go through and see that before there's a yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I was actually surprised when we talked to a couple of guests. One of them being Galen Howard, and he did a Star Wars. He did the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm sitting there going like, I'm going like, okay, tell me how many times did you have to get called back for that? I mean, you must have had to jump through hoops to get that because everybody wants those roles. Oh, I just one time, the casting director, it's a friend, someone who knew me before, not a friend so much, but a peer who casted me before. And it's just one time. But I've heard of stories where it's been like, very experienced actors, I had to be seen, 7 or 8 times before they cast me in the role.
yeah,
That's that's a lot of stress, it's like, so I guess hold on one second. Thank you so much, Professor. I appreciate it so much. So now that now that you're doing self tapes, I mean, is it easier for you to? I mean, do you like doing self tapes versus in person, or do you find? I mean, what are like 3 pros about self tape that you like?
I
What are
think
3 things?
I like self tapes because it can kind of get me more in the moment. Like it's kind of like you have your setup, right? You have like your camera, so it's kind of like being on a mini set. Like it's like there's your camera and you get to see what you look like on camera for the role. And I think like in person can be a bit more nerve-wracking for sure. I um I don't think I've ever there I've only auditioned for in person 3 times, and they were all for theater roles. I haven't, and I didn't book any of them. But
How do you deal with when you don't get a part? What's your reaction?
honestly, like, I mean, I think it kind of varies. Like, it's like there's sometimes where it's like you go a long time without booking, and you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here, you know? And
Yeah.
that can kind of get discouraging. But then usually right after I have one of those moments, then I book something else. So I'm like, yes, I did something, did something right. But yeah, I mean,
Even though you had no control over it, isn't that something
yeah,
you sit there and say, at least I did something right when it had nothing to do with you at all or your skill set. It's just
true.
because I guess self-doubt is probably your biggest enemy, isn't it?
I mean, sometimes, yeah, like it's like just, I think in the industry and just in general, I think mindset is incredibly important. And I think our minds are kind of wired for it to be incredibly easy to get inside your own head, you know, and kind of have that imposter syndrome and, you know, do I deserve this? Or, well, maybe if I did this, it would have been better. Or, you know, like overthinking it to the point. But it doesn't, the fact is that none of those thoughts help. It's like the audition's already turned in, you can't do anything. Or, like they already chose another person. You know, even for like bigger roles that I've auditioned for like, you know, Disney Plus or like Netflix or other stuff like that, and then you like see the role that they cast, which is like the well, but it's cool to be like I remember auditioning for that, and then like seeing the
Then you see
person.
the role and it happens to be some guy wearing a clown suit or something like that. Well, maybe I've dodged a bullet there. Um, Yeah, I get that. I get that. I mean, you audition for all sorts of. Okay, this time you're gonna be auditioning for a cop. All right, and next thing you know, you're stuck in the background. Or like or here's your coffee sarge or something like that, and it's like, Maybe maybe I didn't really need necessarily to do that. But isn't it true though, Nia, that there's no such thing as a bad part?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as things are kind of within, your boundaries of like your not exactly your comfort zone, but every actor has like a I don't really want to do this type of role or, stuff like that.
Sure.
But I think that like any experience is a good experience as long as it's you know a quality workplace that because even like doing background work is like you get to meet so many new people. Like I have cast people that I've met that were extras, like it's like you never know who you're gonna meet because even just doing extra work is like it's just you go in and it's you
Networking.
just make some easy money and you get fed and it's super easy. Like it's
Well,
like and
you get a chance to network too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've definitely networked through, and I've gotten jobs and I've hired or cast other people from meeting them through background. It's like you never know who you're gonna meet because even like I've met like, someone on set who was background and they were like the friends of the producer and the casting director, It's like you have the chance to meet and network with all types of different people and also while learning. Like one of my friends kind of called background work like a paid acting class or like a paid film class, like it's like you
Yeah.
just get to go on to set and see how different people work and learn from that, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
I think I've actually talked to several artists who've done that, and that's exactly the approach they look at it. It's like I'm getting paid to stand here, and here I can watch everything. I can watch how people conduct themselves on the set, how pro and con. I can see how things work, how they set up. I can see all that, and I'm getting paid to do it. So I may be here for 10 hours, but I'm going to get fed. I'm going to get fed. I'm getting paid, and I get an education too. And I think that and it helps that artist, with their own self confidence, and they'll know when they're ready to go up for the next step. Like I know a lot of people. That's what they do. They just do background. They have no desire to go for any more than that. They just enjoy doing that. But I also love the idea that people like yourself use that as a networking tool because it's brilliant, especially on a show like Babylon. I mean, you must have met hundreds of people.
Oh yeah. No, I met a ton of people on that set. They're usually like, the people around you in your seating area because it was a theater, like a movie theater scene. I was on set for 3 days for that film. And but yeah, definitely.
Um, all right. We are just about out of time here on Eight Questions With, but I can tell you already, we'd like to have you come back if you'd like to, and because I think this is going to be fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up for you. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, you definitely are. Definitely way above most people at your age that I've met in the business so far. You're very motivated, and you're a great self starter. And I know a lot of people that's the traits they're looking for. So I definitely know that you have a very bright future. And
Thank you.
yeah, when some of your projects come out, we'll stay in touch. But when they come out, will you come back and we'll talk about them?
Oh yes, for sure. I would love to be back.
We'd love to have you back. Let me really quick before I let you go. I want to say thank you to the chat for coming out and supporting our interview with Nia. I do believe everybody enjoyed the interview. I really appreciate you guys are here for this one. This is a lot of fun. Like I said, when you go back and listen to this interview again, you'll hear me talk about all the things that we just talked about. How starting out, an actor starting out. I think you'll appreciate it because this is the kind of interview that I really like the most. This is it. I just really like to catch it right at the beginning because you know what? Maybe a year from now, maybe it'll break, and that'll be just awesome. It'll be like I remember when we had Nia Ketsdever on the show, and that people will be here. They'll be here saying, "I remember that show too." So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot of fun tracking your career. To the chat again, thank you so much. Just to let you know, next week I'm going to do next week's show, and then we'll get out of here. So next week On Tuesday, the 24th, we have actor stuntman Brian Dodds will be with us at 8 p.m. Like I said, he is doing. He's an actor. He's also a stunt double for Kevin Zegers on The Rookie Feds, and he'll be here on the 24th talking about his career. He's also done some acting, and we'll talk to him about balancing both as a stuntman and as a working actor. The 25th, we have screenwriter and film director Jim Heffernan will be here with us. Terrific. He's a really good director. He did a movie called The Angry World of Brian Webster and Destroy All Sisters, and he'll be here with us on the 25th. On the 26th, we have actor Mike Markoff. Now, see, this is a gentleman right here that we're catching him as he is rising. He just got done completing a film with Glenn Powell, of all people. And so he'll be here with us on the 26th. And I do believe by next year, I'll be sitting there saying, so-and-so just completed a film with Mike Markoff, of all people. And then on the 31st, we have Ghost Walk Films co-owner Rocky Carledge will be with us on the 31st at 8 p.m. So all sorts of fun of activity the rest of the month. February, we have Krista Lowell will be coming back and visiting with us, and Krista Martin will come by and visit with us too next month. All right, to the chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. You stay right where you're at, Nia, and everybody else. I'm going to say good night. Thank you for coming so much, and we will see you on Sunday. Take care. Good night.